Hello, everybody. Good morning and welcome to Forever Red Devils. It is a Thursday morning. We are a little over 48 hours from Manchester United's return to Premier League action. This is your latest Manchester United news and discussions, and a lot to talk about today. A lot of news with regards to the ever deepening injury crisis at Manchester United. The talk about a new partnership, for example, a new sponsor that's been announced. We'll talk a little bit about Paul Pogba, the interview he gave to the Daily Mail, for example, speaking about when he decided to leave and sort of his attitude and why he decided to leave. Very interesting to see how he goes now that he has officially sort of confirmed that he will be returning to action next year after having that doping ban. Interesting time in Paul Pogba's career because he's already had a very underwhelming career, I think, if we're going to be perfectly honest, for the quality of player he is. And not a lot of time now, 31 years old, will be 32 in, I think, about March or April next year, to revitalize a career, which once promised so much. And at the end of the day, take away the World Cup from with France and not been the career that people thought it would be, and not been the career that I think is anywhere near warrants the kind of talent he had. So lots to talk about this morning, and we've also eagerly waiting the press conference later from Erik Ten Hag, because that will give us a better indication of where the injuries are, what the sort of fitness is. So we've got updates on Kobbie Mainoo, we've got a potential update on Tyrell Malacia, as well as a worrying update about Man Utd. So let's get into the injury, shall we? So we spoke about it last night. The left-back injury crisis at the moment, Manchester United without Luke Shaw, without Tyrell Malacia, and now without Mazraoui, or we expect to be without Mazraoui as well. So 3 fullbacks missing for Manchester United. This is so frustrating because we knew this was going to be an issue, didn't we? You know, as Manchester United fans, we said all summer we need a left back. Yeah, Malacia, you know, when he's played, has looked a promising player, looks very much a squad player, but he missed basically the entire last season. You know, there was literally rumors about him even being around because it was that sort of ridiculous. You also know that Luke Shaw is no longer a 30-40 match player. You know, since his leg break, that's the reality. He cannot give you a full season. And I don't think he'll ever be able to give you a full season. So we know that those were the issues. We know that that was the case. And I don't understand how you look at that and you look at Luke Shaw, who can only give you about half a season. When he's playing in his own form, best left back in the club, no doubt about that. But he can only give you about a half a season at a push. And if you're sitting there saying that's okay, then that's fine. But then you've got to plan for that. And Tyrell Malacia had not played basically the entire last season. How do you not then go and recruit and bring in a left back, even if on loan? You know, 6-month loan, like we had done last season, and, you know, had options, because now we're sitting in a weekend where, you know, we've brought in Mazraoui right back and we've been playing Dello on the left, which is not ideal. But even then, you know, you're looking at Dello and Mazraoui as your right back option, and you're going, all right, cool. You're then looking at Shaw and Malacia as your left back options. I still think that's a fullback short. And shock and horror, we've been a fullback short for most of the season. So the options this weekend at left back are, you could deploy Victor Lindelof there, you could deploy Jonny Evans there, or you could go and look at the youngsters in the form of Harry Ms, who is not played yet this season and not been part. I don't even think he's part of the squad actually this season in the Premier League. So, you know, and we've also got no Harry Maguire, by the way, as well. So at this stage, we've got a 17-year-old left back as a potential option, or else you're looking at Jonny Evans in his late 30s, or you're looking at Victor Lindelof, who's not been playing. So it's a disaster. It really is a disaster, but it's a disaster that could have been avoided because we knew that this was an issue. We knew this was a position we needed to strengthen, and we chose not to. And yeah, the recruiting continues to cause so much divide because it's just not good enough at the end of the day. People have seen the issues. I don't understand how, as Ineos, the board, as Erik Ten Hag, as, you know, the recruitment sort of team, how do you look at this team and not realize that we're down on goals and we are down on fullbacks, for example. Now we brought in Man Utd, so we brought in the CDM. That was supposed to be one of the big issues. But I think lots of people are going into the window saying we've got to find a striker. Rasmus Højlund, we all know the potential he's got, but he's not a 20-30 goal striker yet. So we've got to find goals. We've got to find a CDM. We've got to find somebody who's going to short the midfield because of the struggles Casemiro's had. And we've got to find options other than Shaw and Malacia. Now, lo and behold, we are 2 months into the season. And what are the issues? No goals. Since scoring 7 against Barnsley, we've scored 2, or I think it's like 3 or 4, whatever, between in the last sort of 5 games. I think it's actually 1 or 2. Stupid. We talked about it last night. We are now potentially without Man Utd, who picked up an injury during the midweek and an international duty. And we're out Kobbie Mainoo, by the way. So there's been a fresh update on Kobbie Mainoo, who is apparently set to be out for up to 4 weeks with his injury. So now you're sitting with a potential midfield, and you're going to have to be playing Eriksen. You're going to have to play Casemiro. You're going to have to look at and probably play Fernandes as those 3 because we just don't have other options. That's basically what we've got left. So it's amazing how players like McTominay, who were to requirements, and I'm glad he did leave. Now all of a sudden we're sitting there going, well, cheap is what we do to have him. It's got McTominay available this weekend, potentially. So we wait to see. That's going to be, for me, the big injury news from this afternoon's press conference with Ten Hag is the Ugarte injury and whether it is going to keep him out this weekend or whether he is available. Now, the only good news with regards to the left-back situation is apparently, now I'm always going to read this with a pinch of salt, but apparently Teo Malacia is on the return and could be back by the end of October, which is still another 2 weeks today, in fact. So it could be another 2 weeks without him, but at least in theory, he could be on the comeback. So, yeah, I don't know what the solution is. I don't know if you go and risk Harry MS this weekend. I mean, part of me sort of wonders why not. Back in the day, you wouldn't hesitate. And this is also the strange thing, isn't it? Back in the day, we had such a good team, you had such a good, solid squad that you could give 17-year-olds debuts, full debuts, because you needed to, and know that you had enough people enough leaders, enough players on good form, a good enough structure, good enough team that they could go in and they could cope. And not necessarily, I'm not saying they need to go in and have a debut like Federico Makeda had back in the day, but could go in and cope. And unfortunately, now you kind of feel that putting Harry MS into this team would be suicide. It'd be absolutely suicide because the team is in such poor form at the moment and so defensively frail that it feels like you're almost setting him up to fail. And that shows you just how much of a problem that the current situation is. The fact that we've got this crisis, but that we also can't even go and look at bringing in a player and use a natural replacement because not much he's not good enough, but because the environment in which he's going to be playing is not conducive and it's basically just hanging him out to dry. So that remains a massive issue. If this was, Liverpool, for example, they could have no issue putting a 17-year-old left back on. I feel that Arsenal could have no issue putting a 17-year-old left back on, or even a City. Not even the City, but City as well. They don't generally play a lot of those sort of youngsters in the Premier League and the likes of that because they've got such good squad depth. But systematically, they probably could and they could cope. United can't because we recruited badly and because we are a bit of a shit show at the moment. So lots to ponder for Erik Ten Hag this weekend. Let's move on to the new partnership that we have announced. So Manchester United have officially announced a new beer partner in Tiger Beer, which is the most iconic sort of Asian brewer out there. If you've ever been to Asia, if you've ever been to a Thailand, a Vietnam, for example, actually in places that I've been, Tiger Beer is absolutely everywhere. So they announced this morning saying that Tiger Beer becomes the official beer partner of Manchester United, bringing together the iconic Asian brewer and one of the most popular and successful sports teams in the world to enhance experiences and deepen engagement with United fans globally. Ahead of the launch, Tiger Beer conducted a survey with 2,000 football fans in Asia, and results revealed that 70% of supporters view fan engagement activities as an essential way to deepen their connection with their chosen club, and 95% expressed that football has the capability to unite and build long-lasting community bonds. I mean, we really are in the era of commercialization, aren't we? You know, I've got this like entire page, release about a beer that's not even available in the UK. You know, like readily available in the UK as Tiger Beer's big partnership. And what are they going to be getting? They're going to be displayed on the LED boards at Old Trafford. So the only good news is, in theory, is that that's money in the bank. That's what any partnership is money in the bank. Now, who knows how much money it is? Who knows where the money's going to go, for example? I mean, it's definitely not going on left back, apparently. But yes, so there will be a new partner on the billboards, and one imagines that then goes into the partners as well. Out of curiosity, for example, if you go to the website at the bottom, it's got all the different partners, and there's a lot of partners you don't even know about. Partners like Cadbury, for example. Visit Malta's a partner over there. Remington's a partner there. So Marriott, Malaysia, I think Malaysia Airlines are actually our current airline partner at the moment. So yeah, it's another partner. So hopefully that does mean more money in the bank, but it's a pretty average partnership, isn't it? Really, yeah. But I mean, these are the things. This is the kind of international break. News a bit slow, and that's apparently some of the news of the week. So let's move on to Paul Pogba, because he's been giving an interview, and we're actually talking about, by the way, Howard Webb, who has been on Stick to Football and has spoken about that Bruno Fernandes red card. But before that, I'm going to talk about Paul Pogba. So Paul Pogba's come out and said that he wants to leave Manchester United and his move was blocked by Ed Woodward, and that he stayed and gave his best because he's basically a professional. And he said that my head was already that I wanted to go, but I came back for pre-season because I wanted to be professional. I spoke to Ed to try and make a move, but he blocked it. I didn't want to play for United anymore, but I had to be professional. Mentally, I wasn't there, and then I got the injuries. His head was never there. His head was never there. He was a player who, on his day, could create absolute magic, but what a head case. And to sit there and come out and admit that his head wasn't there, we know your head wasn't there. We could see in the performances. So to go and sit there and talk about how professional of a player you were and are, and that's why you came back to pre-season and, you played for the club, but you're contracted, mate. You're not special. But it does show you why, he was so poor towards the end, because he wasn't there. And we kind of knew he wasn't there. But he's not come out and confirmed it, just if he had any doubt. And it's frustrating to read something like that. Now, at the end of the day, what he has to say with regards to United are very true. He said that I was 27 back then. It didn't work out the way I wanted. I gave my best, but I didn't see the club going upwards. Manchester City and Liverpool were better than us, and they were improving. Ole said yes to me leaving and that he would talk to Ed. So that's also an interesting one. The fact that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, who was very good from a man management point of view, he didn't want Pogba around in that squad. I think he very much understood that he was not a player you wanted around that squad. He's not a player you wanted in your club unless he was fully on board. And he, the whole concept of him being a virus, for example, the fact that was actually a thing, shows you that he was a problem in the change room. And he's come out and now admitted that he didn't want to be there and his head wasn't in the game. And that's, I think, it's very poor. I mean, it's, even if you are, I think to say that shows you the type of person you are. And I think a lot of clubs will stay well clear of him, even after his interview, to look at a player and be like, well, if you're going to sit there and mope because, you didn't get your move, for example, I don't really want to have somebody in that with that kind of attitude. And I think the frustration is, he talks about Man City were better than us and they were improving. Well, you were supposed to be part of the improvement. You were supposed to be part of making United a better team. If Pogba ever lived up to his expectations, he would have been the best midfielder in the league. And that's at the same time as Kevin De Bruyne was around. He had the talent. He could have been the best midfielder in the league. But he chose to mope. He chose to not contribute. And at the end of the day, he left, and everybody was like, well, good riddance. So he's got an interesting time in his career now coming up, because he is going to make his return next year. It looks like he is going to make a move away from Juventus. His big thing is the national team. I imagine he'll be eyeing up the World Cup. in 2026. So he's basically going to have about a year to get work his way back into that French national setup, which is not going to be easy to do. They've got a lot of midfielders in there. I mean, he was struggling to get game time to a certain degree between Camavinga, Chalmini, and the likes before he got banned for his doping ban. So he's come out and he's denied that he's a cheat, for example, and said that it was a whole lot of nonsense. But it's amazing how somebody who was tipped to be a Ballon d'Or winner once upon a time, Golden Boy, when he left United was such a big, we've let such an amazing player go. He went on to Juventus, looked so good, and his career has completely fizzled out. And I understand he's had injuries, but I also think just mentally, it's all the way up there. And it's amazing how a player like Scott McTominay, for example, is going from strength to strength, and he, from a technical point of view, is nowhere near the standard of a Paul Pogba. But at 27 years old, he's found a club in Napoli. He's had a phenomenal start to the season, and he's making it work. And that's just pure attitude and hard work and professionalism, whereas Pogba's the complete opposite. I mean, you look at Scott McTominay's start at Napoli so far, and he's played, I think it's 4 Serie A games. He's already scored. I think he played 2 Premier League games before he left for us. But he's played, so take away those 2, and he's played 5 games for Napoli so far. And he's scored 2 goals and an assist, and is playing, week in week out. They found like a whole different type of Scott McTominay. So it's interesting how, and also it's early days, but it's interesting how Scott McTominay is managing to make a real career out of his limitations, or despite his limitations. And then you've got a Paul Pogba who had all the talent in the world, all the opportunity in the world, and take away the World Cup back in 2018. And it's not much of a career really. Juventus, he was great, and he won a couple of trophies, and he won a Europa at United, but nothing massive to speak of. I mean, you go look at his honours. And hang on, back on the Juventus one. Where is Paul Pogba? Right, so his honours are, so he won Serie A 4 times. He won everything in Italy. He won absolutely everything in Italy. But, I mean, you think about his last title was in 2016 for Italy. He then left. And in 2016, I think he was about 22 years old, 21 years old, something like that. Maybe a bit more. 16 is 8 years ago. He's 31 now. So 23 years old. He came to United at 23 years old. And since then, he's won a Europa League, a League Cup, and then he's won the World Cup. And the one that's supposed to won the Nation League. So, majority of his success has come in that French team. So he, for me, is somebody who should have been a Champions League winner. Look, that 2014-15 season was phenomenal when he got to the Champions League final. But he should have been a Champions League winner, could have been a Champions League winner, and should have been one of the best players in the world. And it's completely dropped off the radar, and I think it's going to fizzle out, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, so that's Paul Pogba, who's been chatting to and getting all the dirt out after his ban is going to come to an end. Let's talk about Howard Webb. And he's spoken about the fact that VAR should have intervened and overturned that Bruno Fernandes red card. Now, he is currently the chief of the PG Mole, and so there's therefore currently involved. It is the official refereeing group, by the way, if you didn't know. So I think it stands for it's like the Professional Group, or Professional Game Match Officials Limited, is what it stands for, and he is the chair of it. So, speaking to Stick to Football, he said the following. He said, we released the order, and you can hear the assistant, who had a good view of the instance, say that it was awful at 100% red for him. From his angle, it looks it because it looks like the studs have gone up. But then there was an angle, a second replay from Sky Sports, and straight away I thought that would be an overturn, and it wasn't. I was frustrated that we didn't step in to rectify because it was clearly wrong in my opinion, as he slipped and tried to trip him, but it was the side of a foot. He didn't drive the studs in. I'd only advocate for the assistant to come in if they're certain. If they've got the best view, and sometimes they do not have the better view, it will be wrong for them to say nothing and not get involved. They've got a responsibility to step in. I've worked with some of the best assistants. They've made me look good, and a lot of decisions I made where I couldn't see, they've come in with some good information. Maybe in this case, the assistant should have described it a bit more. Maybe should have said, from this angle, it looks like it studs into the shin, and that may encourage the VAR to be more receptive and get involved. VAR looked at it and said, appreciate you slip, but he's not gone for the ball, caught him high, and there's some force. For me, it was just the lacking of excessive force that you get from the studs in the shin. Now, once again, VAR has not taken a stand, and a red card, which has definitely contributed towards the game, has taken place. Now, when are they going to get this right? This is the big question. When are we going to get VAR right? You cannot have the head of the Premier League Association coming out week in, week out and say, yeah, no, we should have done this, and this is how it should have happened. It's flipping ridiculous. I mean, we've had VAR for, 2-3 seasons now, and we are still getting everything wrong. It is mental. We cannot be sitting here having red cards rescinded like it's going out of fashion when you've got now 4 officials checking everything. I mean, we've got more technology than ever, and yet we're getting more decisions wrong. It feels like we're getting more decisions wrong than ever. It's ridiculous. And I don't understand what is going to change and how we're being, the chief of the PGMO, what's going to change, because the technology is there. The technology is not going to change. It's not a technological issue. It's a people issue. And I don't know if it's a policy issue or a structure issue or the way it's done, but it really, really needs to improve, because you cannot sit there and have a red card in a game of that kind of magnitude, have a result like that, and then go back 2 weeks later and be like, yeah, got it wrong, just got it wrong once again. And they're continuously doing this, continuously having to come out and apologize and say, oh, we got this wrong, or, it should have been like this. And it can't continue like that. It really, really can't. It's so unhealthy for the league. It's so much ambiguity all the time, and it's really, really not good enough. So, yeah, it's frustrating, and we were so over, aren't we? We were so done with having to read statements and apologies and the likes. Just get it right. Just be better, I think is what we're all asking for. I don't think we're asking that much. We're just asking to be a bit better. So, yeah, that's what. So in terms of the rest of the week's worth of content, by the way, we've got a video coming out later today. Top five strikers for United, and my ranking. We're going to be doing some of those videos throughout the rest of the year, coming out every few days, doing things like top 5 Dutch players, top 5 underrated defenders, top 5 overrated defenders, top 5 best captains and stuff like that. So if you have any suggestions, put them in the comments below, and we will also then have a video out later with the press conference, which is, I think there's a press conference later today, and then the pre-match press conference tomorrow. So, yeah, lots to look forward to. And then we'll be live once again tonight at 7:30 UK time. So we will see you all then. But until then, smash like on the video, subscribe to the channel.